All right, let me try this again. My first live stream didn't go so well, so we're gonna pick it up. Hi, I'm Nelson. I'm the host of Aquarist Assembled. I'm also the owner of Creekwood.aquatics, Better Class in Nutrition. We're a small aquaculture company based out of Floresville, Texas. We produce live foods like Daphnia magna, phytoplanktons, rotifers, copepods, and more. We also import some fish. We also breed a lot of fish here. I've been breeding a lot of betas lately, platies, uh, killies, and there's some other stuff, rainbows. Um, so I want to do a short little interactive live stream. I do want to talk about some of my favorite fish, and I thought the best way to get that across is doing a fish tier list. So I need to open that. Got to share this screen. Open that. And there is my fish tier list. I'm still learning the ropes of all of this, so it gets a little weird sometimes, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out together. But I also want to be on camera. Let me stop the screen share and we do it one more time. And maybe I'll stop being so picky with the size of the screen. All right, here we go. Fish tier list. Nelson's hot takes. First thing I'm going to start off with is my Leopoldite stingray. That's always going to be S tier. I just enjoy stingrays. I know they're a challenge. I know the water has to be super clean. You have to have large exhibits for them. But they're an animal that I get to work with. And they're an animal that I always wanted to keep at home. And I remember when I first moved to Texas, my first thing was I got a 120-gallon tank. Oh, when I moved to my second apartment. And I said, I'm going to set it up and I'm going to get ready for a stingray exhibit. And the people I worked with told me, stingrays are illegal in the state of Texas. And that kind of dashed my dreams of having a freshwater stingray exhibit. But I do have my eyes on a saltwater, maybe like a blue dot stingray, something that stays smaller. But again, it's another elasmobranch that I always wanted to keep at home. But yeah, stingrays number one. I'm gonna go another S tier fish that I wish I can keep. I know a lot of people wish they can keep them too. Is the red arowana, so I'm gonna pop that up here in the S tier. Arowanas are just beautiful fish, just all of them. Um, you got your silvers, you got your blacks, you got the Jardini, which is the Australian arowana, and then you have the top tier, which is the red arowana, the Asian arowana. I know it's a shame. I know a lot of people want to keep them. I know up in Canada and the west of the world, they have captive bred stock. They get microchipped when they're born. They come with birth certificates. And for some reason, that doesn't upset CITES over there. But for some reason here in the U.S., it's one of those fish that are on the CITES list and another animal that we can't get in. But they are a phenomenal, phenomenal animal. There's some zoos. I can't remember what zoo I went to where I actually got to see them in person, but they were just these fantastic, just these giant red arowanas. And I remember when I was there, I saw a bunch of Denizoni barbs, roseline sharks, whatever you guys want to call them, were just in the tank and they were all swimming and they looked beautiful. And I asked the keeper, I said, "Hey, how do you stop the arowana from eating a lot of these shellfish?" And he said, "We don't." I said, "That's cool." But yeah, red arowanas. Man, I know it's a fish on a lot of people's bucket list. I would love to see that one day. Let's do something different. Tropheus. Tropheus do have their place in the hobby. They are an attractive fish. I don't like their aggression levels. They become really big bullies. and it's hard to kind of manage that aggression. Usually with cichlids, usually with stuff that I keep, when I notice my guys are being buttheads, I can either rearrange the tank, I can change their diets, I can add more fish. But with trophias, they'll just continue to fight. No matter what you do, no matter how much space you give them, they just fight. So because of that, I'm going to pop them in the C class. They do have a place, just not in my home. Uh, ooh, here's a good one. Dwarf gouramis. I saw my first dwarf gourami back in, it was like 2010, 2011, when I was working at what was that store? Animals and Things. And I was they were just very, very unique, very cool looking fish. And I don't know, something about them I really enjoyed. But I always noticed that every time we ordered some, a lot of them would die. A lot of them would die, and it was because they're very susceptible to dwarf gourami disease or myco, or what's the other thing they want to call it? Fish TB. And it's one of those things you can't really get away from. You either have a good batch or you don't. Um, there was a gentleman on the Facebook group. He had a gourami, and he started getting gray patches on his skin. Was losing tissue, and he was asking everyone desperately, like, what can he do to get this fish in better shape? And a lot of people said you can't. Unfortunately, like once this disease starts to show its ugly head, it's usually 100% fatal. Um, I even told the guy that. So the best thing to do is when you are interested in a dwarf gourami, take your time in the store, watch over the fish, go somewhere else, look at some products, come back, and just check on this fish for like 5-10 minutes and really make sure you're getting a good specimen. Acclimate them properly and make sure that your fish aren't stressing them out too much. As long as these fish, as long as they're stress free, their immune systems are good. Um, they usually don't show signs, but once one of these things become compromised and the fish becomes compromised, that disease is going to pop up and it's not going to be a good time. So because of that, I'm going to put dwarf gouramis up in DC class. Now, if you want a good gourami, Pearl Leary's over here. I'm going to put Pearl Leary's up in B class. They're a great gourami. They're a big gourami. They are a semi-aggressive gourami. I consider like Pearl Leary's and golds to be a little bit more aggressive than the other species, like opalines, blues, and I can't think of the other ones. But they are fantastic looking fish. They come in this normal variety. They have a color morph that's gold, and they do add a lot of personality to your tank. They do add a lot of color, and again, it's a beefy fish. They're going to get around 3 inches, and I do like them a lot. I put them in a B class. What else? Of course, everybody who knows me knows exactly where I'm going to place any of my cichlids. All cichlids, Nelson's hot take, um, all A class. It doesn't matter what type of cichlid it is, whether it's a Mabuna, it's a peacock, South American. They're all fantastic fish. Um, I can't get enough. My tank that's over there in the corner of my house, that is a 125 Malawi tank. Right now, it's mostly peacocks. I'm looking at stocking it with some other things, but you can't go wrong with peacocks. I know a lot of people don't like them, especially when they start to hybridize, but I think they're very unique, and I think the people who want to keep the strains clear are going to keep the strains clear. Um, so I'm not worried about that. What else do I have here? Oh. Again, cichlids, Raru, they're going to go in the A class. They're either going to go in the A class or they might sneak up here, but I love Raru. Raru are one of my favorite fish. I always keep them. I always buy them as little tiny babies, and then they grow up to these big, giant, massive fish, but they have a ton of personality. Um, they can be shy, but I like to baby mines a lot, and they always come up to the surface and they always eat. It's a great fish to have. Uh, let's see what we got. Red tail cats. I'm not a big fan of red tail cats. I'm going to push them in the flush tier. I don't like them for the reason is that they get too big. For most aquarists, if you're not planning on having an outdoor pond, they are probably not going to be the fish for you. This is a fish that's going to get over 2.5 feet, 3 feet. They're going to get really big. Um, I had a gentleman when I was younger. He bought three of them. He put them in a 265, and he had them for a few years. And one day he came in and he's like, "Yeah, they all died." He fed them one day. I think he overfed them, and they regurgitated in the tank. And when he woke up in the morning, all his catfish were dead. Um, and it was a shame. He was really bummed out. But it's just there's some fish that I don't think belong in the hobby. Paku are one of them. Red tail cats, Arapaima. I've seen that once. I thought it was really weird. Alligator gar. If you're not planning on putting them in a pond outside, um, they're not going to do well in your aquarium for too long. Um, but yeah, they're one of the fish that I'm not a big fan of. Flower horns. Flower horns, even though it's a cichlid, I'm gonna pop them in the C class. Uh, Flower horns are a man-made fish. They're hybrid of Trimaculatus, and there was another fish in there, Trimaculatus. If you guys know, put it in the comments. um, they're big, they're beautiful, but that's a fish that you're gonna keep by itself. So that's yeah. There's a cichlid called a Madiguance or a Jaguar cichlid, and I had a guy tell me ever years ago. He said, "You want a good pet? Hey, fish room. I've been watching a lot of your videos lately. Yeah, it's good you finally got to join me on my second live stream." But yeah, the gentleman was telling me if I ever wanted a good pet fish, get a Mannequins, get a couple of them, put them in a 75-gallon. In a year, you'll have one, and he'll be like your best fish. Um, I don't enjoy keeping fish like that. Me and my wife, we had a flower horn. It lived in the 55-gallon tank that's over here to my side. Now it's full of axolotls. Um, but I just this fish being alone, not having a ton of enrichment, being so big, being so messy, it just wasn't a fish for me. I didn't enjoy having them. I had them for about 2 years, and eventually, I traded him with somebody. I forgot what I got, but yeah, just flower horns. Not a big fan. Achilles, Gardneri. I'm gonna pop in the B class. This is a fish. Yeah, single tanks they're just boring. It's just not for me. I like my tanks to be dynamic. I like them to move. I like to have a lot of interaction with stuff. Um, I like to breed stuff in there, and it just doesn't happen with the flower horns. But the Gardner killifish, one of my favorite fish. I'm actually actively breeding them right now. Um, they're a great fish, a lot of color. Uh, I do not recommend keeping them with smaller fish. They will eat anything that fits in their mouth. They're very predatory. There was a time where I was breeding the Gardneri and I was breeding some angelfish at the same time. And I bought one of those fluval hang on, like kind of breeder boxes. And they were doing real good. And then for some reason, the fry got past my first screen, and some of the fry ended up in the main breeding tank with some of my baby angels and shrimps. And I kept noticing as the week goes by, I kept seeing less and less angels and less shrimp. And I was really curious. I said, what's going on here? I'm not seeing bodies. So I started poking around, going through the Java moss, and I found a real fat baby killie. He was about that big. And I'm like, oh, he got in here and he's been having a picnic. But But other than that, you keep them with appropriate size fish. They are amazing. Um, clown loaches. Clown loaches for me are going to be in the A tier. Um, for me, I think they're a very charismatic fish. I love their colors. I love their personality. I love when they're together. And I'm gonna go to the side over here. I'm gonna play a video of three clown loaches that I work with. Here we go. Just kind of lay on each other. Um, it's adorable, but it is one of those fish that I get multiple calls for a day that saying like, "Oh, your fish is dead. It's laying on its side." I said, "No, that's just a clown loach. That's just what they do." But clown loach is A tier. Discus, I'm gonna put him in the B tier. I know it's a cichlid, and I know I love all my cichlids, um, but negative things for them is their cost. They're finicky. Depends on where you get them. Um, I spent hundreds of dollars on discus. I had about 10 of them in my 55-gallon tank, and they were all doing great. They're all doing great. I don't know what happened. I think my fluval filter just got stuck or something, and it stopped filtering water overnight. And when I woke up in the morning, they were all laying on their side. And yeah, that was a big bummer. That was a big bummer. I think two of them survived that night. I had to add a lot of aeration. I had to do a big water change, turn on the filter. But for their price, for them being finicky, sometimes they don't want to eat. Sometimes um, this gets if you don't have them like in the corner of your room, if you put them in an area where there's high foot traffic or a lot of things going on, they just don't have a good time. Actually, I think I have a video of one. I think this might be it. Yeah, I was trying to record some fish and these rummy nose tetras, and he was just freaking out. He was hiding in the bushes, and he just wasn't having a good time. So I had to walk away, and eventually he came out. But yeah, for me, they're just kind of finicky. I don't recommend them for beginners. That's more of an expert type thing. What else? Oh, sorry. Sometimes I get distracted and I forget that there's comments going on. But yeah. Uh let's see what else. Mimbu puffers. Hmm. It's tough. I'm floating between the B and the C class. I'll pop them in. I'll pop them in B. I love Mimbu puffers. I love all freshwater puffers. They do have great personality. Um, but their diets are very specialized. You're gonna have to give them stuff that's gonna wear down their mandibles. Those beaks do grow long, and sometimes they they're kind of their beaks get so long that they can't open their mouths. I had that happen at Rainforest Cafe. I had a dog face puffer that just refused to eat clams. We used to give him clams, and he wouldn't touch them. So his teeth kind of got long. So I had to take a pair of toenail clippers and catch him up one day and kind of cut him. And then he had like little buck teeth. But clipping their teeth doesn't hurt them. There's no nerve endings in there, just like mice and beavers. Their teeth constantly grow throughout their entire life, but that's because in the wild they're going to be eating snails, they're going to be eating clams and different little crustaceans. Um, but again, they're very personable. I just wouldn't recommend keeping them with a lot of fish because they will also eat your fish too. I had one of these Mimbus in my African cichlid tank, and he did well there. But I started to notice he started to get kind of skinny. So I put him in my platy tank just to kind of beef him up a little bit. And I started noticing all my fish had little chunks missing out of their tails. So I was like, "You're evicted." So he went back into the African tank. You want a good starter fish? I'm gonna recommend giant danios. Um, Actually, any type of danio. But they're danios are indestructible. It's one of those fish that I do recommend. Like if you're starting off your tank, of course you're gonna buy your tank. You're gonna add your gravel. You're gonna add your. Oh, I will do the frontosa. But yeah, it's one of those fish that yeah, if you're starting an aquarium, you want a fish that's going to be hardy, something that's going to ride out a cycle. Um, Danios are them. Giant Danios, zebras, golds, pearls. They all do absolutely great. They're wonderful. Something that I wouldn't recommend for cycling aquarium would be neon tetras, but we'll get to them. Frontosas. I'm gonna pop them in the A tier. I love frontosas too. Yeah, I know some people. I've had people tell me that frontosas are overrated, but I really enjoy frontosas. They're just these beautiful, just bicolor fish. They get massive when you take care of them. They get that nice little bump on their head. Um, at work, we have a oh my god, I'm gonna say it's about either 6,000 or 8,000 gallon aquarium, Lake Tanganyika. Um, yeah, Lake Tanganyika, and we have our big schools of frontosas there. And I get lucky enough that every so often when we're working and we're scrubbing, we'll see little baby frontosas hiding in the rock work. But every time I see one of those babies, I'm like, yes. um, but yeah, frontosas they're great. I know the Black Widow varieties been coming out lately. The reds have been coming out. But yeah, I just think you want a real cool fish, frontosa. There's actually a frontosa, actually two frontosas living in my African cichlid tank over there. And I got them when they were about an inch. And my one boy is about 5-6 inches right now, and this female is about 2-3 inches. But yeah, I love frontosas. Yeah, anyone who says the bad things about cichlids are just not my friends. All my friends know I love my cichlids. Um, let's go with elephant nose. Uh, hmm. I'm gonna say if you want a unique fish, elephant nose are gonna be it. They're gonna be what I consider oddballs. Uh, so my oddballs are gonna be my knife fish, my who is it? My knives, my elephant nose, and things like baby dolphins. Um, Yeah, they're very unique. I know the two species I work with for the elephant nose are the Peter's eye and the Rancophore. They can be butt heads to each other. They don't bother a lot of fish, but they bother each other. So when I keep these fish, I make sure that there's a ton of hiding spots. They have real small eyes. They don't like to be in bright areas. So I put a lot of PVC pipes. I put a lot of plants, and I make sure that I feed that tank heavily. But even when I do all that, sometimes you do see them kind of bickering and fighting with each other, and they're trying to sort it out. But yeah, you want a really unique fish. You want a cool fish. You want something that when people come over, they're gonna be like, "What is that?" Elephant nose, knife fish. Those are gonna be them. Let's see what else. Bala sharks. So I might get pitchforks out. Bala sharks, I am not a fan of. I'm not a fan of a couple of these guys for some reasons. And the reason is people buy them when they're small. So you're buying these cute little bala sharks you know, about an inch to 3 inches. And you think they're going to stay that big, but they're not. They're going to grow large. And if you don't have the space for them, you don't have a strong lid, they will jump and they will wreak havoc. I'm gonna put bala sharks in the C class because they do have a spot in the aquarium hobby. Um, but let me give you an example, and this is a tinfoil barb. Again, this is another one of those fish that people buy because they're cute, they're small, they're cheap. But you got to remember, here- but I like to call them tank busters. Um, yeah, they're big. I think buyer beware. And if anyone sells you them and doesn't tell you that you're gonna need a bigger tank in the future, don't buy fish from them again. Uh, let's speed this up a little bit. Raciboras, I'm gonna pop in the A class. Beautiful fish. They love the school. They're cheap and they can ride a cycle. Um, I do have a video of some Raciboras. Where do I got that Racibora video? Ah, here we go. Um, yeah, I enjoy them. They're very interactive. They eat like crazy. I think they're a great fish. Betas. Again, another A tier. Um, yeah, I know it's one of those fish that we keep by themselves, um, but only from other betas. Like I have betas in my main guppy tank over here. I have my one male and I have three females, and I know that I shouldn't keep them together. But the male that I have is really docile. He doesn't really bother anybody. So I kind of leave him in there. He's actually right now just swimming around, just minding his own business, and my three females are just out and about. I wouldn't do that with any other of my betas because they're jerks. Currently breeding a veil tail right now. So right now he's guarding some eggs. They should hatch in the next 2 or 3 days. I'll probably do a video on that. Um, but yeah, I enjoy betas. You can get them in different type of fin types, different color types, different sizes. You have your standard betas, you have your giants. Petco's been selling like the kings now. Actually, someone actually gave me a king. It's about 4 inches. And I had someone ask me, they're like, why do their king betas die so easily? Because I had a king beta and it also died. And I like to think that they're old. They're older. The only reason why they're so big is because they're old. The last betas that I bred, I bred them last October. And even with feeding, good water quality, all that stuff, they were only about yay big after like 6 or 7 months. Like they're painfully slow growing fish. So when you see those giant king betas at Petco, I think those guys have a few years on them. Uh, I'm gonna try to breed that king. I don't have a lot of hopes because if you don't breed betas in the first, and I know people are gonna probably get upset. In the first like 2 years, the chances of them being successful at breeding kind of goes down a lot. Cherry barbs. Uh, mm, yeah. No, it's a barb. It's going to go into B class. I know they're peaceful for a barb. They have beautiful colors. The males are that beautiful dark red. The females are kind of paler. Um, they're cute. I have a pair in my little tank of misfit fish over there. They can be butthead sometimes. They can be a little nippy. So for that, I put them in the B class. But again, if you want a fish that's going to ride a cycle, you want a fish that's going to be hardy, be just a little bit of a butthead, your cherry barbs are your way to go. Goldfish, C class. I'm sorry, guys. Hey, Tyler. Um, I'm not a big fan of goldfish. Uh, I do have a couple ranchus. I kind of like them because they're kind of chubby. They remind me of little chicken nuggets. I am trying to breed them because I've never bred goldfish before. Uh, but my thing with goldfish is that everyone kind of has the same experience with them. You either get them from a little carnival game, or you get them as like someone's bad like wedding decoration table thing, and you go home at like 6 or 7 of these because everyone at the party doesn't want to take them home with them. They don't want the responsibility. Um, Nelson's hot take: if you're doing any type of party, fish are not party favors. Don't do that. Um, but I think that's my biggest thing with goldfish is people don't have the knowledge to know that these things are going to get big. They're going to require a lot of space. They need a lot of filtration. So whatever your filtration is for your tank, double it. Um, yeah, they do much better outdoors. They do better in ponds. Indoors, you need to have space and you need to know what you're doing. You got to know what you're getting involved with. I think that's my problem with goldfish, just lack of education. And a trigger point for me is when I see goldfish bowls. I think as a community, I think as pet store owners and stuff, we got to get away from the goldfish bowls. Goldfish bowls are not meant for fish. They're meant for your sand art. Neon tetras. I'm gonna pop them in the A class. My favorite tetra is the Cardinal tetra. They're very similar, except they have a little bit more red banding on the bottom. Um, I think they're a great fish. They are one fish I do not recommend. I do not recommend that you get these fish for when you're first setting up your aquarium. So if you're cycling your aquarium, stay away from the tetra. In ground pool or pond, do both. Um, but yeah, tetra do not like to ride a cycle. They're very sensitive to water. That's the parameters are constantly changing. So that's something that when you have a mature tank, yeah, go ahead, buy them. They're cheap. If you have a choice, I prefer the wild caught neon tetras. I think that they have stronger immune systems, and I think that there's less that goes wrong with the wild caughts. There's captive bred versions; they're good, but again, just like dwarf gourami, just make sure that they're good. Make sure they're healthy. Make sure you keep them stress free. You don't want to get that neon tetras disease because they're just going to dissolve. I've seen that happen a lot of time, but again, wild caughts, I think they do a lot better. German blue rams. I'm gonna pop them in the B tier. I know they're cichlid, they're micro cichlid. Um, I'm putting them in the B tier because I've tried to breed these guys on multiple occasions. I get eggs, I get fry, and then the fry disappear because they end up eating them. So that's it. They're in the B tier because I can't breed them. But again, they're a real cool fish. They don't bother anybody. I like to keep them in like I'll keep them with my platies. I'll keep them with guppies. I don't think they cause problems for a lot of people. Guppies. I'm gonna put them in the B tier. Um, they're colorful. You can keep big groups of them. They're easy to breed, but they're sensitive. Most live bears are sensitive. So yeah, that's one fish that yeah, I have a breeding group in my shed, my future fish room, and everyone was doing great. Everyone was doing great, and I come in one morning and one of my breeder males is dead. So yeah, little things like that get them. I had a female; she had about 20 or 30 babies, and I was super excited. And I was scooping up all the babies, and I was putting them in the breeder box. And the next morning, she died too because it's just a lot of stress on their bodies. But guppies, beautiful, fairly easy to keep, but I'm popping them in B tier. Same thing with mollies. Most of the live bears have that same issue. Peacock bass, flush. um, Peacock bass are cool, but again, they get very large. They eat a lot. They're going to eat a lot of their tank mates. I've seen them be aggressive with each other. Flushed. Angels, A tier. Nah, B tier. Sorry, Angels. Uh, that's shocking for me to say out loud. Um, it's a cichlid. They're easy to breed. I usually get a big group of them, put them in the tank, and they sort of sort it out with each other. They kind of pick their mated pairs. Um, but for me, for cichlid, they're kind of frail. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna pop them there. Oscars. Mm. I'm torn. I'm torn. Um, oof. Yeah, let me put them in B tier. Let me put them in B tier. Um, I like Oscars. They're big. They're kind of derpy. I keep them in either 55 gallons or larger. They do have a ferocious appetite. I do not recommend feeding these guys feeder fish. Um, Everyone gets some. They think you can feed them rosies and gold, the feeder goldfish. But that causes a lot of disease in them, causes a lot of internal parasites, causes hole in head disease. Um, yeah, I'm not a fan of the fish feeders. Um, and I know that sounds kind of weird. My company breeds live food cultures, but again, those are Daphnia magna, those are the rotifers, those are the phytoplanktons and all that other stuff. And your dad has two tiger Oscars in a 30-gallon tank. He's gonna have to go bigger. He's gonna have to go bigger. Sorry to tell him that. Yeah, 55 or bigger. 55 or bigger. That's just for the two. Um, where was I? Oh yeah, the Oscars. Ah man, ADHD man. But yeah, I enjoy them. They have a lot of personality. Um, but they do require big tanks. Need a big strong lid, and whatever filtration you have in your tank, double it. Just like goldfish, double it. Oh, I didn't notice the knifefish was on here. Same thing. Beats here just like the elephant nose. Um, they're really cool, but you're only going to see them at night or when your lights are dim. Uh, Night fish do not like to be out in bright open tanks. So if you're going to have a lot of hiding space, have a lot of PVC tubes, have a bunch of plants. Um, they are predatory. So if you're going to try to keep them in with things like guppies and small tetra and mollies, you're not going to have them for long. So you're going to have to keep these in with some bigger fish. I recommend a lot of the South American cichlids, like my next guy over here, the gold severum. I really enjoyed severums. Um, the orange neckties, the reds, the greens. I just really enjoy the severums. Yeah, he won't listen. He has other tiny cichlids in there. He's gonna have a bad time. He's gonna have a real bad time. um, yeah, severums. What else do we got? Geophagus. Um, Pop them in the top tier. Oh, A tier. Um, Again, cichlid, really cool. If you're gonna keep geos, make sure you have some fine grained sand. They are called earth movers. They like to scoop that sand up in their mouth and they kind of sift it through and they kind of eat the goodies in there. They're not going to have a good time if you're going to try to put them in the tank with larger pieces of gravel. They'll still dig, they'll still move, but if you want to see that natural behaviors, I recommend a soft sand. What else? A lot of these are kind of samey. Koi, again, if you're going to keep them outside, I'll pop them in the A tier. Uh, Corys, popping A tier. I do have a video of some Cory cats here. I do love Sturbii. They're one of my favorite. Uh, where are you? I don't think. All right, I'm gonna finish this up. Yeah, a lot of these are samey. I don't know who that is, so I'm gonna flush them. Yeah. What is that? Swordtail. I'm gonna put them platy, pop them both in the B tier. I've already talked about the live bearers. I don't need to repeat that. Fire eel, put in the B tier. Any pleco, B tier, and shovel nose cat. We're just gonna flush that. All right, that's Nelson's hot take. This took a lot longer than I thought. I thought this was going to go by pretty quickly. Go back to my comments. Anyway, thank you guys for hanging out with me as I did my fish tier list. I know it went on kind of long, but hopefully next week I'll start having more guests on here again, and we'll have more of our fun-filled conversations. Anyway, thank you for hanging out with me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.